Okay, should be going. Ashley, do you see it coming up on the live stream?
I don't, but I'm also on Amtrak Wi-Fi, so who knows? I might show up in like 5 minutes.
Okay. All right.
Saw it come up right now.
Okay, great. So we've got quorum. Let's get started now. Does somebody want to call the meeting to order?
Motion to call the meeting to order.
All right.
Seconded.
All right. Let's do this. Here's the dial-in information for the meeting. Hope everybody got it. Our antitrust compliance notice, y'all should be very familiar with this by now. I won't get into it again, but if you have any questions, just ask Andy Updegrove, our counsel. Member directory, there's one, as we all know, there's one in here that we haven't quite announced publicly, but other than that, there haven't been any changes to the members quite yet.
Hi, Michael.
Hi. First and foremost, I want to welcome Colleen Evans to the board from Microsoft, replacing Janugo. Hey, Colleen.
Hey, thank you.
Awesome. Okay. So we have a resolution here, just dotting all our I's and crossing all of our T's. So the resolution is that the board hereby acknowledges the appointment of the following individual director by Microsoft to serve as a platinum director as defined in the bylaws, Colleen Evans. Can I get a first and a second?
I'm sorry, Michael. Just to back up, did we already start the meeting? And
Yes. Right before you got on. Yeah.
So motion. Yeah, second.
All those in favor? Any opposed?
Aye.
Any abstaining? Motion passes unanimously. Let's move along. Now we need to.
Thank you, everyone. Yeah, I'm looking forward to working with y'all. Thanks.
Me too. Okay, so approval of the public minutes. Everybody should have gotten the Exhibit A from the last meeting of the board of directors. Can I get a first and the resolution is that the minutes of the public session from March 2016 is approved by the board of directors. Here to attach is Exhibit A. Can I get a first and a second?
Just to clarify quickly.
Yeah, there's a typo in the resolution. It's my bad. But the exhibit is correct. Can we get a first and a second?
So motion. So motion, then I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining?
I'm abstaining.
Cool.
Brian.
Okay.
Wasn't here.
Yep. Motion passes. Moving along, so we have our share of voice media stuff for this month. We've maintained our really good rate of articles about Node in IoT and in enterprise. Also, Java came down a bit, so we're back to basically squaring right up against Java. Any questions about just the aggregate numbers before we get into highlights?
Michael, did you have any insight into what drove the Java number up?
In March? No. I was trying to find some kind of conference or something that might have happened, but I just couldn't find anything. I'm not quite sure. That is something of an anomaly, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, we had a bump too, though, so maybe it was just a good month for tech news. I mean,
You know, Bruno Souza has been doing a roadshow for Java all over Latin America, so it could be that.
oh, I didn't know that. Interesting. Okay, moving on to highlights. Yeah. So we had good Twitter growth again, about 2%. So we're closing in on 350,000 pretty soon. We got about 340,000 followers. Also, this last month we launched LinkedIn and Facebook pages. Facebook tends to actually be a little bit better than Twitter in a couple countries that we've started doing smaller events in terms of getting developers attracted. Also, I mean, there's a huge Node LinkedIn community already that we should probably be tapping into a bit better, particularly professional community. And LinkedIn is also not disabled in a lot of places that might be blocking Twitter. For instance, China is actually accessible on LinkedIn. So yeah, we launched pages there. We're starting to push kind of our regular content and pipeline into those and building out an audience there. We've had a continued survey impact. So the survey that we launched a few months back now has 9 media articles around it. And it was used in a RedMonk analyst blog post about serverless computing. So that's great. The Node v6 release also generated a ton of media. So we had 3 articles just specifically only about that release. The tweet about v6 was the top tweet for April. So it had like 600 retweets and over 100,000 impressions. So that's really good. We've had a lot of kind of positive uptick of that release, other than a couple of small technical issues that we'll get into in a little bit. Any questions about the media highlights for the month? Okay, moving along. TSC update. I'll hand it over to Rod. You can take this on.
Can I get a sound check?
Yep, you sound great.
Okay, so got a few things to update on. ES modules. This is a rolling thing that's been going for a while. Where ES module spec has been developed. It works nicely for the not so great for Node, and there's this ongoing discussion about how Node would implement it, if it implements it, and it's causing a bit of controversy simply because it's not so straightforward. So just be aware that this is a public discussion that is causing a little bit of consternation, but hopefully we'll get to that soon. So version 6, overall the release has gone really well. It's very stable. We mostly think that it's proving the success of our release model. The major thing that is still lingering that we haven't fully resolved is we've got some technical issues around scanning AOE, and the problem is that this is actually a long-standing problem that Node has, but exacerbated in version 6, particularly for OS X, and we haven't fully got a strategy to deal with it yet. So it's causing a little bit of consternation for some people. Hopefully we'll have it resolved soon. It's just not straightforward. So there's this. It's not a perfect release in terms of technical problems, but we're getting there eventually. And this one is Michael. You put some NPM reports 2.5 times market growth in just 1 month.
Yeah. Yeah. I got this from Lori. He posted it publicly and then pinged me about it. But in just like a month after release, we've reached 10% market share, which is, as far as I know, our fastest adopted release so far. So the fact that 4.0 was able to overtake 0.10, and the fact that we can get this to such a good amount of market share in just a month shows that our ability to get out a release and get people adopting it is getting really, really good. So.
Yeah, so most of what's in version 6 has actually been added during the version 5 timeline. So
I feel horrible interrupting, and I know that I'm on a lag, but the live stream cannot hear Rod's audio. They can't hear Michael's. So if it's a technical thing, I don't know how to handle that necessarily.
I wonder if it's just that it's soft, because I see it coming into the mixer. I see it coming into the mixer.
Do you know how many people are sitting on the live stream?
17.
That's a lot of people.
Yeah.
Short answer, I guess, is have somebody type, apologize and then type rough notes of what he's saying. For now.
Yeah, they're reporting that they can hear me, and they are reporting that they can hear Michael. So it might be something specific with Rod's setup.
Huh? It's technically.
You increase your volume a little bit. If there's any way to do that, that would help.
Yeah, I think it's probably just really low.
But if somebody that's on it, if somebody that's on it would just type out what Rod's going to say, so we get through the meeting.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yes, sir, I can do that.
that's great. Thank you. Rod, you want to pick up where you were?
Yeah, so the basic report about version 6, things are going well. We've just these upcoming discussions with regard to the spec. Let's just say be aware of the module thing, the ongoing discussion about tail call optimization. There's ongoing discussion about promises, and one that's coming up that will be relevant is a new proposal called zones. So these discussions are interesting to know, and they're a place where TC39 representatives who have no interests can step up and do a bit of work with TC39. So we're actually starting to engage more with that process, which is great, but anyway, is that all of my update there, Michael? Another slide or?
That's it for the TSC update. But I'm wondering if people have any questions. Okay, sounds like we're good. All right, so as you can see, the impact of doing a new release has on branches. So we obviously moved a lot of effort away from moving patches over to 05 and 04 staging. Master actually came up and is our best month ever. So in terms of commits just flowing into the project, it's as good as it's ever been. And we can see the V6 side of things starting to take up there. And this is, by the way, this is for April, not for May. We haven't had a full month before I did these analytics. So this month we probably have another big uptick in V6. So any questions here?
That looks really good, Michael. That's what you want to see. So.
Mm-hmm. Great. Okay, moving along. Events update. So we just finished Node.js Live in Beijing. It was by far our most successful live event ever. We had a lot of people, great talks, and it was also just a huge learning experience for us and for the foundation about what the Chinese community looks like. I think that we had somewhat underestimated the degree to which the Chinese community was a little bit isolated from the rest of the kind of global community. And not just because of language barriers like other Asian countries that I've visited before, but the Great Firewall just means that they have all of their own apps, all of their own social networks. They also maintain a lot of their own community infrastructure that the rest of the global community relies on, npm, or they rely on like our downloads or Stack Overflow and things like that. And they don't have that, so they have their own people internally and their own communities internally that have built out these resources and maintain them. And as a result, they have like a lot of community leaders there that maintain this. Like the guy who maintains the npm mirror is like their version of Isaacs, and everybody knows him. And so it was very interesting, but they're also growing like crazy, just like we are, and so they're having a lot of the same growing pains that we had as we grew up some of these resources around Node, and could probably use a little bit of our help. So, any questions about Beijing before we move along?
Michael, what you experience is pretty consistent to what we've been seeing for the last 15 years of Chinese involvement in open source.
Yeah.
So the tricky thing is to make sure that they don't create their own universe, and give them as much congruency with us as we can give them, so that they don't spin it into something different.
Mm-hmm. And they want to be connected. I mean, like the guy who maintains the npm thing was just like begging like me, like, I'm doing this in my spare time. I would like some help. And I was like, I messaged Isaac about it later. But yeah. I mean, they could definitely use some support, and connecting with them is going to be. It'll be a challenge though, just because it's really, really challenging. One is the time difference is literally like an entire day, and then just the language barrier is pretty intense for most people. Although I will say, so we've just onboarded. I think he's definitely our first core committer from Alibaba, but we now just onboarded recently a committer from Alibaba, and So Alibaba releases a Node fork called OliNode, and one of the interesting things about that fork is that it's basically a fork because it replaces the UTF-8 stuff with like a better character encoding that they can do for Chinese, and a lot of people in China actually run OliNode and use that fork, and so I know that he's probably going to be asking soon to be added to the security team, so that they can make sure that they're getting the security updates out in the same lockstep that we are. But yeah, that'll be a nice gateway into connecting the project for sure.
Yeah, I think that us visiting in Beijing ended up sort of making us realize that they are on the cusp of creating their own universe, that they're wanting us to help them not happen. So I think it was nice to see how excited they were to hear perspectives from us and work on that moving forward.
Yeah. So the way that Mozilla got around this back in the day was they just appointed somebody local to kind of represent the official viewpoint. And there are a number of people that work out of Beijing and speak English well enough and Chinese well enough to do that. So it might be something we want to talk about for the future.
Yeah.
I think that would be a great idea, and I've seen that used in other places as well too.
Yeah.
They're mostly ex-IBM or ex-Sun employees, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did start to get the impression that like in order for us to really connect these communities, we need somebody with the purview of like me or Tracy that's in China that knows the Chinese community to work with us. That would probably be ideal.
Okay.
Yeah. So Mozilla did it. They hired Li Gong, who is the best that you can get, but he won't do anything that doesn't make him a GM. So
yeah.
He's got a whole bunch of people. He's at that level in his career.
Yeah,
So
totally.
he's got a bunch of people under him that could certainly do it. Anyway, it's something to think about.
Yeah, I was actually at Mozilla when we launched that effort, so I know a bit about that. I know that we actually had Mozilla had an entire different version of Firefox that was for the Chinese market. That was not a localization, but was actually behaved differently because that's what people needed there.
So I think it's a good goal. We should put some real effort into it. If you need help from those of us who are here, reach out, Michael, because I have full-time resource working for me there as well too. I'll offer up any help I can.
Oh, great, yeah.
Michael, I'd be happy. This is Colleen. I'd be happy to help with Emily and the team in China that you worked with on the Node Live event too. So I have direct connections with them.
Yeah, they were fantastic, by the way. Emily in particular is like one of the most reliable people I've ever worked with. So she was great. Yeah, they're really
like
good people.
We might be able to go after special sponsorship from somebody like Huawei, since they're into Node and they're into being cool in the West right now.
Yep. We also have some new connections into Alibaba after coming back as well. So
cool.
Yeah, and they're a Linux Foundation member as well now. So I know that they have some ability to do that. So
yeah, I think Huawei is too.
Okay.
Newly.
Yes. Yeah. So this will continue to develop, and we'll work on a plan, and hopefully coming into 2017, we'll have something like really, really concrete in place. Okay, a quick update on Node Interactive. So we're selecting the talks this week, or at least the first round of talks. We won't completely solidify the talks for a little bit, but we'll have some announcements to go out. We now have 2 sponsors for Europe and 4 for North America. And things are starting to look pretty good. Any questions? Cool. And that's the end of the public session. I think that we've got about 5 minutes for questions if anybody in the chat has a question. And now I'll just let the time delay on the video run out for a little while. Does anybody have a song that they like to sing? Or
Are you able to hear me at all?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, cool. So we have a couple of questions.
Okay.
One of them was just, who is the Isaacs of China? Which I imagine is who is the person who's managing CNPM?
Right. So CNPM, I forget the individual's name, but he was very well known. I can look it up though, because I think he maybe gave a talk actually. But he was awesome. He's kind of leading the effort though. There's a bunch of different volunteers that work on it, and also I think Alibaba is supporting it. I believe.
Was that Alfred's song or was that the C Node admin?
Probably the C Node admin. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah. Alibaba.
Hey.
Alibaba supports both of those. So.
Did they simul-translate these sessions for you guys?
So when I spoke, they translated to Chinese, and that translator sat down with us for a little while and kind of clued us in, but then she left, and so the very last talk we had no idea what was going on. But the talk before that had such amazing slides that we were able to follow the entire thing, and it was about like garbage collection, which you would not think you could follow in a different language, but that's how good the slides were.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
Hardy
We have
was
a couple more questions from the community.
Okay.
And so one of the biggest questions, and I think this is partially because of the sound problem with Rod, but a lot of people are asking about exactly what's going on with ES 2015 modules. There's questions about that, and if the MJS decision is final. So I think that's a question for Rod.
I think somebody else is going to have to translate.
Yeah, Michael, let Michael, you take that since they can hear you.
Sure.
Everybody is asking about that. That's the key thing that a lot of people are concerned about.
Well, nothing is final yet because there's no implementation yet. I think that the decision to explore MJS is like the direction that the people working on this are going to explore, and in order to evaluate if it should go in at all, or if we should try to work with the spec committee to try and make changes or whatever. But people that are really invested in Node are not working on a not MJS solution as far as I know. But maybe somebody else is.
So the thing here is that it's really there's a lot of technical issues here that are hard to communicate in a short little Twitter post. So people are kind of there's this consternation about the decision or the sending decision. We have a blog post coming up soon on the source blog to try and explain some of these issues here, just because it's so complex. We'll try and do some more communication about this.
Okay, cool. That sounds great. And I mentioned the blog post. That'll probably really help. The last question, from what I can tell, is that there's some people from the community who are asking what would be the best way to get further involved in either Node Interactive or the board, which is going to be a lot of probably Pharos and I being like, we're going to open up some issues and talk to you about that. So I didn't know if the board had other thoughts.
For interactive, the CFP is still open for Austin. It closed for Amsterdam though. And also there's going to be a kind of collaboration summit thing where we all basically the people that work on Node discuss have kind of unconferencing discussions, and that'll be happening at that'll be happening at
Oh, yes, we can hear you, but nobody answered that was a query.
I'm sorry, I was answering, but I was muted the whole time. I was answering, but I was actually muted the entire time. That was my bad. That was totally my bad. I'm sitting here talking, and I was like, okay, sorry. So for interactive, the CFP for Austin is still open. Also at Interactive, both in Amsterdam and in Austin, we're going to have an unconference thing where we just kind of discuss among a lot of the contributors to Node what some of the forward direction should be. And there's also going to be a kind of what we're calling Code and Learn, which is a program to teach people how to be core committers. So that'll be happening alongside the conference. So for people that want to go and be involved that way, that's an ideal place to get involved. Also, please submit to speak in Austin.
Great. I do not see any more questions from the community, so I think that's a wrap on that. Thanks for the responses, everyone.
Thanks. Okay, let's close it now, and or actually, sorry, motion to close. I need a motion to close.
Yeah, I need a motion to close, actually. I'll make a motion to close.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd like to adjourn now and move on to the private session.
Cool.
Any objections? Great. See you guys over there.